everyone, welcome to this deep dive all about comfort food. I gotta say, these articles you sent over have been super interesting. It's pretty clear you've given this topic a lot of thought already.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something we can all relate to on some level, right?
Totally. I mean, who doesn't have those go-to meals that just make everything better? But it makes you wonder what's actually going on, like beyond just that warm, fuzzy feeling.
That's a great question.
Mm.
And to really dive into that, we need to look beyond just the food itself.
Right. Like the articles mentioned Grandma's Sunday roast and chocolate after a breakup as classic comfort foods. I feel like I could trace my own comfort food eras through different points in my life.
Absolutely. Everyone has their own unique comfort food journey. But from a scientific standpoint, there are some common threads. For example, comfort food often triggers the release of dopamine.
Dopamine, like the feel-good chemical.
Exactly. It's a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in pleasure and reward. It's a primal response that's deeply embedded in our evolutionary wiring.
So basically, indulging in a big bowl of mac and cheese after a rough day is like giving my brain a chemical pat on the back.
In a way, yes. But it goes beyond just dopamine. Think about the sensory experience of comfort food. The warmth of a soup or the creaminess of mashed potatoes.
Yeah, like a culinary hug almost.
Exactly. Those sensations tap into a deeper need for security and comfort, often associated with feeling safe and cared for.
Makes sense that those feelings would be amplified when we're feeling stressed or down. But like the articles pointed out, there's a bit of a double-edged sword here.
For sure. While comfort food can provide that immediate mood boost and sense of well-being, it's important to be mindful of the potential downsides.
Totally. One of the articles broke down the pros and cons, and there was this really interesting point about how some comfort foods can actually be quite nutritious.
Right. It all comes down to ingredients and preparation methods.
Like homemade shepherd's pie is a far cry from a fast food burger, even though they might both hit that comfort food spot for different people.
Exactly. And that highlights the importance of recognizing the why behind our cravings. Are we truly hungry, or are we seeking an emotional fix?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
It is. Because if it's the latter, there might be healthier and more sustainable ways to address those needs.
Like the articles talked about things like exercise mindfulness or connecting with loved ones as alternative ways to manage stress and boost mood.
Absolutely. Comfort food isn't bad, but it shouldn't be our only coping mechanism.
It's all about balance, right?
Exactly. And that's where the concept of mindful eating comes in. It's not about depriving yourself of the foods you love, but rather being more intentional about your choices. Can you make a healthier version? Could you enjoy a smaller portion?
Yeah, those are good points. Small adjustments can make a big difference in the long run. One of the tips that stood out to me was finding healthy swaps for classic comfort food ingredients.
Oh, like what?
Like using whole wheat flour instead of white flour, or baking instead of frying.
Those are great ideas.
Yeah.
I'm all about making those little tweaks that don't sacrifice flavor.
Me too. What about you? What resonated with you in terms of practical advice?
What I found particularly insightful was the emphasis on recognizing patterns and having a plan in place. Instead of automatically reaching for that bag of chips after a tough day, what if you had a list of alternative activities that brought you joy or helped you de-stress?
Ooh, I like that. Having a backup plan, like a comfort toolkit that goes beyond just food.
Exactly. It's about expanding our options and creating a more holistic approach to well-being.
Love that. Speaking of which, the articles also touched on the cultural aspects of comfort food.
Yeah, food is such a powerful symbol. It can represent so much more than just sustenance.
Totally. Like my comfort foods are totally different from someone who grew up in a different part of the world or even a different part of the country.
Absolutely. Our comfort food choices are often deeply rooted in our upbringing, our family traditions, and even our broader cultural background.
It's true. Which makes me wonder if our comfort food choices are so tied to our past experiences. How do you think they might evolve in the future?
Wow. Now, that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, if comfort food is like a reflection of our culture, then yeah, as our culture changes, so too will our comfort food.
Right. It's kind of wild to think about. Like, I'm already picturing some futuristic comfort food, like maybe nutrient-dense meal capsules that somehow evoke grandma's cooking. Or maybe it'll swing back to like really simple farm-to-table meals as a reaction to all the technology.
Those are some really interesting possibilities. It really shows how food trends are always kind of connected to what's going on in society. Like what we find comforting might be influenced by all sorts of things, from technology to the environment to even like changing social values.
Totally. It really makes you wonder what a comfort food historian from the future would think about what we eat now. Like, would they
Yeah.
see mac and cheese as a relic of the past or like a timeless classic?
Ah, a comfort food historian.
Mhm.
That's great. Um, but yeah, you've got a point there. Like some comfort foods just seem to stick around forever. Like chicken soup. It's been a go-to for ages. And across so many different cultures, there's just something about it that feels so soothing.
Yeah, it's good. That warmth and simplicity just really resonates with people on a deep level. I guess some comfort foods tap into something universal about being human, like that need for warmth and nourishment and connection. Those things probably aren't going to change too much, even if the specific dishes we eat do.
Exactly. It speaks to that really powerful role that food plays in all of our lives.
Yeah.
It's not just about like filling our stomachs. It's about identity and tradition and feeling like we belong.
Mm.
And those things will probably keep shaping our comfort food choices forever.
This has been such a cool conversation. I feel like I'm looking at comfort food in a whole new way. It's not just about the taste, it's about the memories and the emotions and even like the cultural connections.
I agree. It's been great.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can't forget the science behind it all too.
Right.
Like all those neurochemicals and sensory experiences that make us feel comforted.
Right. Like all that stuff about dopamine and the physical sensations of warmth and texture. It's like all these different factors coming together to create that perfect comfort food experience.
Totally. But before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, we should probably talk about some practical stuff for our listener. The articles had some really good tips on how to enjoy comfort food in a healthy way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like making it more mindful.
Right. It's all about striking a balance between enjoying the food we love and taking care of ourselves.
One of the suggestions that really stuck with me was about portion control. Like sometimes just being aware of how much we're eating can make a big difference. It's not about like depriving ourselves. It's about savoring the experience without overdoing it.
Absolutely. And I think along with portion control, making healthier swaps can be huge. Like little things like using Greek yogurt instead of sour cream or choosing whole grain bread. Those can really add up without changing the flavor too much.
Another good one was finding different ways to manage stress and find comfort. Like sometimes that craving for a specific food is actually us wanting something totally different.
So true. If we can figure out what's really driving those cravings, then we can start to deal with them in a healthier way. Maybe that means taking some time to relax or calling up a friend.
Like building a comfort toolkit, but for more than just food, we can still enjoy those special dishes, but we don't have to rely on them to feel better.
Right. It's about having more options and like a more well-rounded approach to well-being.
I like that. Well said. I think this is a good place to wrap up this deep dive. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that comfort food is like way more than just a quick fix or something we feel guilty about. It's like a fascinating look into who we are, you know, like our psychology and our culture and all of our experiences.
Yeah, totally. And I hope our listener feels the same way. Like they're leaving this deep dive with a whole new understanding of comfort food.
For sure. And I hope they're excited to try out some of those tips for mindful eating too. You know, those small changes can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe they'll even discover some new comfort foods along the way, like as their tastes change and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like comfort food isn't set in stone. It can totally evolve with us.
I love that idea. Comfort food is a journey, not a destination.
Uh-huh. I like that. But speaking of journeys, it's been awesome exploring this topic with you and our listener. You know, their choice of articles was really spot on. It sparked such great conversation.
Totally. So to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of comfort food. We hope you learned some cool stuff and maybe even got a craving or two.
Yeah, and remember, the next time you reach for your favorite comfort food, take a second to really appreciate it. Like all the memories and emotions and, you know, even the cultural stuff it represents.
And don't be afraid to try making it healthier or finding other ways to, take care of yourself.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you.
Well said. Until next time, happy eating, everyone.